and welcome. This is a great turnout today, so we appreciate everybody coming for sure. My name is Nancy Brown. I'm the Executive Director for Community Living Campbellford Brighton, and on behalf of our Board of Directors, which we have a number here today, and myself, I would like to welcome you today to this special event. It is certainly a pleasure to have the Honourable Dr. Helena Jasic, the Minister of Community and Social Services, here with us, and visiting Trent Hills and making an announcement in our community for people with disabilities. I would like to welcome our special guest, Mayor Hector McMillan, so thanks for coming. And at this time, I would like to introduce MPP of Northumberland Quinte West, Lou Rinaldi. Lou currently serves as a parliamentary assistant to the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing. And I personally know Lou, and he is a great listener and a great advocate for people with disabilities and the developmental service sector. So I will ask Lou to come up and introduce the Minister.
Well, thanks very much, Nancy. And you know, it's we're just talking with the mayor a few minutes ago that I think I probably wore out a set of tires coming to Trent Hills in the last little while. It seems that every week there's some activity in Trent Hills. I was here Friday night for the opening of the 161st anniversary of the Campbellford Seymour Fair, one of the oldest in the province of Ontario. So it was good, and we had, of course, Dr. Hoskins here a couple of weeks ago to come to visit CMH, and I was, and I don't want to take the spotlight from today, but you know, I want to brag about this. That I see Brad is here today, and some of his team. That it's one of the few hospitals in the province of Ontario that keeps on balancing their budget. Can you imagine that, and provide a great service to our community? So something very rare. Anyways, I am delighted to be here again today in Trent Hills in beautiful downtown Campbellford to welcome a good friend of mine. And when Elena got elected in 2007, we were friends before that because she was committed to a cause. And you know, even when I was in government for a couple of years, we kept a good relationship with not just with Atlanta, but the whole caucus. But here's an individual that's got one of the easiest files, right? I want to make you feel good. Yeah, that's right. She's become a real computer expert lately. But anyways, no, all kidding aside, a person that's so committed to the cause, so committed to the social fabric that this province is known, and she upholds that piece together. And this is why she's here today to make I think it's a phenomenal announcement. You know, as Nancy said, I always said, we have a lot of soft spots for a lot of things when you're in government, but certain sectors more than others. You know, we were involved in a project in my previous life as an MPP, which one of the first in Ontario, and 5 or 6 individuals now have way better life than they ever had before. And I know it's not thousands, but every person's counts. So, Minister, I'm delighted you're here today. I'm not going to take the spotlight from you because this is very important. It's province-wide, but because I probably won't get a chance to be back up here again, I just want to say to Nancy and the board and staff, you are one of 12 out of 80 applications across this province, and you were successful. So my hats go off to you and the work that you do. So, Helena, please.
Well, thank you so much, Lou, for that great introduction. And as Lou has said, we've been friends for a very long time. We're delighted that he's back with us at Queen's Park after a short hiatus. But Lou and I, when I was first elected in 2007, Lou was elected in 2003, we had so many Liberals in those happy days that we actually were on the other side of the legislature. The government is always to the right of the Speaker, and the opposition party is to the left of the Speaker. And we had so many Liberals in 2007 that we were in what's called the rump on the opposition side. And Lou, because he'd been around for a while, was right in the front of the rump, and I was way at the back. And we always called Lou the leader of the rump. He was our leader. So and as you all know, I'm sure all of you know that Lou is a great advocate for his community. And we have lessons at every caucus meeting about what's happening right here in Northumberland, Quinte West. So I'm just delighted to be here. And what a beautiful riding you have. The drive up was lovely. I have to admit it's my first trip to Campbellford. I'm sorry, but I hope it won't be the last. It's a lovely place, and it's great, your worship, that you were here. I was about to say it's almost as beautiful as my riding of Oak Ridges Markham, but anyway. So I'm here today to talk about two really exciting projects, and I'd like to welcome the people that are here today who will help make these projects actually happen. So I know we're going to be hearing from Mark Graham from the Canadian Mental Health Association, Jack Gillen from Community Living Peterborough, Teresa Jordan from Community Living Kawartha Lakes and Haliburton, Jerry Fusil, I hope that's okay, the way I'm pronouncing it, from Tri-County Community Support Services, and Brad Hilker from Campbellford Memorial Hospital. And special thanks to Nancy Brown and to Community Living Campbellford and Brighton for hosting this event today. And I want to thank you all for coming and for the crucial work you do every day to not only come up with projects such as these, but the work that you do to support people with developmental disabilities and to build more inclusive communities. And I'd also like to welcome a few people who've helped make these projects happen from our end, from the ministry end of things. Karen Bellier and Marge McCabe, sitting here in the front row, members of the Developmental Services Housing Task Force, and thank you for being here today. So it certainly is an absolute pleasure to share some much anticipated news about residential services for adults with developmental disabilities. The Housing Task Force was created actually by my predecessor, the Honourable Ted McMeekin, now Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing. It was created in the spring of 2014 to help find and encourage inclusive and creative housing solutions for adults with developmental disabilities. And this past spring, the task force issued its first call for submissions, attracting proposals from across the developmental services sector and beyond. After much hard work and careful, thoughtful deliberation, the Housing Task Force submitted their recommendations to me, and I am pleased today to announce that 2 projects in this area were successful in their applications. The first successful project is that of our hosts, Community Living Campbellford and Brighton. Congratulations, and thank you for bringing your proposal forward. And their creative project, with the active participation and partnership of Campbellford Memorial Hospital, will create a centralized hub of supports to assist 6 individuals with developmental disabilities to live independently. One of the key criteria that the Housing Task Force looked for was the inclusion of partnerships, so that, of course, with many people committing to a particular project, I think you'll find even better results than working independently. And the second project that we're announcing today is the Peterborough Transitional Housing Pilot Project, co-sponsored by the Canadian Mental Health Association and community living organizations in Kawartha Lakes, Haliburton and Peterborough. Many of you will be familiar with the Select Committee on Developmental Disabilities that reported to the legislature last July. They had worked through 2013 and 2014, and one of their most important recommendations was to ensure that transition from childhood to adulthood was made as seamless as possible. We do have 2 separate ministries, the Ministry Ministry of Children and Youth and the Ministry of Community and Social Services and all their attendant offices and so on. So it can be quite puzzling and difficult for people to negotiate the transitions. So it's especially important that we look how to make that happen as seamlessly as possible. And also the Select Committee was, of course, very aware of the issue of dual diagnosis in terms of those with developmental disabilities. And again, this sort of a partnership that we see in that project, I'm sure is going to be very valuable. So congratulations to the partners, including Mark Graham from the Peterborough chapter of the Canadian Mental Health Association, who we'll be hearing from. This project will provide young adults with developmental disabilities the opportunity to learn daily living skills like cooking and banking, which will help them live more independently in their community. So I look forward to learning from all the projects as they progress over the next 2 years, so we can see if they can be replicated on a larger scale to help more people in the future. One of the key things about these first 12 of the 80 applications is that we think we have the potential to learn from these projects as demonstration projects, in essence, that we can ensure that this is known across the province and perhaps, as I've just said, to replicate them and to have a greater impact for more people. I think you all know that our government has made a 3-year, $810 million investment strategy to support the transformation and modernization of developmental services. And we just marked the first year of this investment. And together with our partners in the developmental services sector, it is making a tremendous difference for thousands of Ontarians. More than 500 people have received new residential supports, and more than 14,000 individuals and families have received new direct funding to purchase the services they know suit them best. But of course, we know there is a lot more work to do, especially when it comes to residential supports, and to build that type of capacity across the province is certainly a challenge for all of us. And we also know that there is no one-size-fits-all solution to housing. Our challenge isn't just about finding more supports, it's about finding the right kinds of supports for each individual. As we know, those with developmental disabilities have such a varied span of abilities as individuals, and we want to ensure that each of them can thrive to the best of their ability, and the right type of roof over their head is fundamental to that. And we know that these two projects will help us do that. People do have these unique situations and needs, and we need more choice and flexibility to find a solution that is right for them. And we must look beyond the traditional forms of housing to look at new ideas and find new partners in the community, because we know that inclusion begins where we live, and it can only happen if we work together. So the Housing Task Force is about to issue a second call for proposals later this year, and we expect that that will lead to even more new and creative ideas. And I encourage everyone to start thinking about the next call. I'm optimistic that we really are on the right path. Our ultimate goal is to help individuals with developmental disabilities live as independently as possible, fully included in our communities. And today we've taken another step in that direction. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Minister Daszak, for sharing this amazing news for people with disabilities. It's something that I've been in this field for almost 30 years now, and to see people be acknowledged and be given opportunities is amazing. So thank you so much. I know people will benefit from these dollars, and our communities will benefit from these dollars. So, just to move on with the agenda a little bit, at this time, I would like to acknowledge Karen Bellier and Marge McCabe from the Housing Task Force that are here, and I would like to ask Karen, the ED of Total Communications Environment, to say a few words on behalf of the Housing Task Force.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here on behalf of my colleague Marge McCabe and I, representing the Developmental Services Housing Task Force. Our chairperson, Ron Prusen, unfortunately couldn't be with us today, but he sends his sincere regards. Developmental Services and Housing Task Force is made up of 17 committed volunteers and professionals from across the developmental services sector, municipalities, self-advocates, academics, and the community who came together in September 2014, united in our goal of finding broader, more inclusive, and innovative housing options for citizens of Ontario with developmental disabilities and their families. Following our work and consultation throughout this fall and winter, we issued our first expression of interest in this spring. As mentioned, 80 proposals were received in response to the expression of interest, and it was clear that we had our work cut out for us, reviewing all of the proposals. Following an extensive review process this spring, the task force recommended proposals that we felt best met the criteria included in the application guidelines. During the review, proposals were scored according to how best they met the application guidelines criteria. During the review, proposals were scored according to how well they described their alignment with the criteria, and which included, of course, the principles of developmental services transformation. Those that clearly demonstrated their creativity and innovation, as well as offered the best opportunity for learning, which is a very important part of this, as well as value for money, were rated the highest, and we put forward those for recommendations to the ministry. From the beginning, we knew that we were looking for solutions that were different from what's currently supported and funded within MCSS services. And that broad-based partnerships, as mentioned, were really key to future success. So partnerships between individuals and families, as well as community members and groups, various levels of government, as well as the private sector. We needed to find ways to improve our current developmental services system, address the long waiting lists for housing and residential supports in a more timelier manner. We also wanted to ensure that we could learn things from any of the proposals that came forward in order to hope to replicate those in other areas of the province. Most importantly, we wanted any potential housing solution to be rooted in individualist approaches for community inclusion and supports. I'm very pleased to say that both the Campbellford and the Peterborough proposals represent all of these values and certainly stood out in our review and scoring. They are creative, innovative, provide, we believe, in a great opportunity for learning, and certainly good value for money. We really think this will be a wonderful opportunity for the people that will participate, and certainly seem rooted in community inclusion. Congratulations to you both, and we will look forward with interest in watching your project roll out. Thank you.
I'd like to thank the Housing Task Force for all their hard work, and thank Karen and Marge for attending today, so thanks so much. I also, I guess now it's my opportunity to say a few words because I'm excited about receiving this. So, on behalf of Community Living Campbellford Brighton, I would like to extend our gratitude in receiving these funds and approving us to move forward with our community residential hub model. I'd like to acknowledge our partner, Brad Helker, there you are, Brad, and Carrie Shudall from the GAIN program, as well as Tim Chenette from the hospital board that are all here today. So we can't do it without you, and we certainly appreciate your support in moving forward with this. This community partnership will allow for more community resources and is designed to allow direct support professionals to provide predetermined hours of support as well as spontaneous support on a 24-hour model basis. This innovative housing model will prevent premature admission to long-term care, reduce avoidable emergency department visits, improve care and quality of life for people with disabilities, assist people finding affordable housing, as well as increase capacity to meet the critical needs of people who are aging and on residential wait lists. It is our hope this model of support will enhance our communities and be more responsive and inclusive for all people. So thank you so much. I think the minister explained a lot more about the projects as well, so we're excited to have those funds for the next 2 years, and we truly hope that we can show a model that others can replicate throughout the province. So we're excited about that. Now it is my privilege to introduce my colleague, Mark Graham. He's the CEO of CMHA Haliburton and Kawartha Pine Ridge branch, to come forward and say a few words.
So I was given 20 minutes, so I'll see what I can do. Anyway, no, I wanted to thank Nancy, Minister Jacek, welcome, MPP Lou Rinaldi, as well as the Mayor McMillan, pleasure. Karen and Margaret, you obviously had a huge task. Anyway, thank you for all your hard work, and do share that our sentiments to the committee and guests. On behalf of CMHA, Haliburton and Kawartha Pine Ridge, as lead of this project, and Community Living Peterborough, and Jack, if you wouldn't mind standing, Jack Gillen, Community Living Kawartha Lakes and Community Living Haliburton, Teresa wears two hats, Teresa Jordan, and Tri-County Community Support Services, Jerry Fusil. As partners, three colleagues of mine that we work very well together. I want to thank each of you for this great news, or all of you for great news of this funding project. The project has two phases, with year one funding to hire a consultant to review best practices in working with transitional age youth. We all know this population struggles to move from age youth to adulthood. So we're looking to complete a detailed environmental scan of the region's housing for this population, and we're going to look at youth transitional housing projects in other jurisdictions. We're going to try to build on those practices, but we also intend to develop a best practice model that can be shared and replicated throughout the region and in the province. And then in year two, as we ramp up, the project will be looking at program implementation, and we are looking at including clinical supervision, leadership, and intensive case management supports to probably 3 to 5 individuals initially. The project brings together collaboration between local service providers, each sharing their expertise and resources. It is about collaboration, true collaboration amongst health providers and social service providers. The other unique thing about this project is the fact that we are leveraging interministerial partnerships, and anytime you can get housing, the Ministry of Health, and MCSS working together, kudos to you guys. Anyway, what we are looking at is CMHA is going to look at contributing 5 new housing units through rent supplement through the Central East LHIN, as well as a half-time housing support worker, and we're waiting for those funds from the LHIN in the next 3 to 6 months. As a result of having access to these 5 units, Community Living Peterborough will have the ability to repurpose an existing group home setting, and it's valued at approximately $500,000 to leverage. Either we're going to include other clients to take up the residency there, or repurpose it, possibly selling it, looking at a model, developing a new housing structure for transitional age youth. By providing wraparound intensive supports to these transitional age youth, we may prevent other expensive services such as hospitalizations, repeat emerge visits, or incarceration. In some cases, individuals end up in the wrong system. So we're going to try to do our utmost to try to avoid that with intensive wraparound supports. So on behalf of our partnership, I want to thank the ministry very much for this very important opportunity afforded by this funding that's going to allow the individuals served to experience a better care transition from youth to adulthood. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. It's going to be an exciting couple of years, I think, for all of us in this area, so thank you so much. At this time, I'd like to thank the Minister, Jacek, and guests for attending and sharing this great news for our communities. And we just have a small token of appreciation for you coming all this way, and a little taste of Trent Hills here from all of us. So thank you very much. So we're well known for our chocolate and cheese and our Jewish bakery next door. So that's lovely. Thank you so much. And I'd like to thank my colleagues who have traveled here, and it's been a little bit of a drive for specifically 3 people. Gary Pruden from Community Living Toronto, that's representing the provincial network, and we have David Barber from Oasis, and Chris Beasley from Community Living Ontario, and I have another colleague here, Sean Edison, as well. So I thank you all for coming and sharing in this great news and this announcement with us, because I know some of you have traveled quite a ways this morning, so it's very much appreciated. And I'd like to say thank you to the media for all coming. Sometimes, you know, these things that, you know, it's an announcement, but, you know, it's about celebrating our community and celebrating who we are as community members and organizations. So I do say thank you to all of you for coming and knowing this is an important event for organizations like ours. So, and partnerships is the way to go for the future. And at the end of the day, that is, it is a cost-effective way, and it's about making our community more inclusive for everybody. So, thank you very much all for coming. And